Hello, welcome to the Homeless Diary. And today on chapter 1, page
When I got out,
5.
my car had been impounded and my bank account was overdrafted. So I became homeless and I started, looking for a job anywhere. I relied on the HSA with their job placement program, got my resume built for entry level. And basically I was out every day handing out, 10 to 20 resumes and
It's Tiggy. Turn it. I told y'all I was coming. Thought I was playing, huh? Hey, I said one day I be on, one day I be good. One day make it out the hood and hope I'm living good. I said one day I be on, one day I be good. One day make it out the hood and hope I'm living good. I said one day I be on, one day I be good. One day make it out the hood and hope I'm living good.
A little bit about yourself and where do you work at?
absolutely. So I've been in the technology industry for the past 25 years and kind of spent my career creating things that stop people from being able to have jobs, like software that makes it easier for one person to do 10 people's jobs. I've then transitioned about 10 years ago into the maker community, which kind of led me into the robotics community. And so I started building robots that replace people on jobs. And about 9 months ago, I decided that I was going to give that up and come back and start working with the homeless community to try to figure out how to basically start working on solving homelessness and ending poverty as we know it. And in the course of that, I actually ended up back in the homeless population myself for a minute. I spent about 3 months in shelters and navigation centers here in San Francisco. And in that space, I ended up finding a job working in the grocery industry because of the COVID-19 response. It's like, where can you find a job in a situation like this? And helping get boxes of groceries delivered to families that are hungry was an opening that I saw. And so I took an entry-level job in a grocery warehouse, packing boxes for delivery. And that's what I'm doing for work right now.
Wow, that's very inspiring. Due to the fact that people don't know what to do and they don't know how to find work. And so right now, can you explain a little bit on how did you actually find the job during, the COVID-19?
Well, from the time that I had become homeless, so on December 23rd, I was attacked walking down the street and spent 10 days in the hospital. I had been driving Lyft, working like 70 hours a week, making about $115,000 a year. And when I got out, my car had been impounded and my bank account was overdrafted. So I was signing up on Craigslist and all that. And one night when I was laying in the shelter at the navigation center, I checked Craigslist app and I found this job opportunity. I submitted my resume, got an interview the next day, and started on Friday.
Wow, did you see that, ladies and gentlemen? He went on Craigslist. He was still motivated. Make sure he kept his resume updated. Make sure that he was motivated. How did you keep yourself motivated during
I'm a
that
pretty
time?
motivated person and I'm very passionate. And, being around people that were suffering, the COVID-19 was in full swing when I got this job. I started on like March 15th or something like that. So, I was eagerly fighting to try to get hotel rooms for some of our elderly clients that were in there with me. And so I had a lot of motivation to set an example and to do better for myself in order to free up resources for the people that needed them the most.
I love that. So, how do you feel about, going back? We all want to go back to work. We need to go back to work due to the fact that the bills, etc. But how do you feel about going back to work during the COVID-19? Are you scared? Are you nervous? Is it necessary? How do you feel?
It's necessary on a financial level. I'm making about a quarter of what I'm used to making. And that's hard because I'm still supposed to be paying child support for what I used to make. So for me, making ends meet, I'm not even doing that. But I feel good about the fact that I'm making a positive contribution in a time of need. So, and it's better than being, I was volunteering before that. I was out working for the coalition, doing outreach and, volunteering in every way that I possibly could. And, to be able to get a paycheck and pay some of my child support and be able to buy food for myself and not have to take the bags of food because I'm now living in an SRO. Like I reached out to the mayor and let her know that, I'm an essential worker now, and I'm living in a navigation center in a congregate environment. And the next day, I got an SRO.
And for people that don't know what an SRO, can you explain what an SRO is?
Yeah, so it literally translates to single room occupancy. It's basically old hotels that have been converted into individual living environments. So I have about 100 square feet to call my own, a TV, a microwave, and a mini fridge and some drawers. And there's bathrooms and showers down the hall. So, it's not like living in a house like I used to, but I have my own place. I can sleep well with earplugs, and it's a really good footing to help get yourself back on track and navigate the life that you want. So I see a bright future for myself.
Now, I noticed that you said we're earplugs. Are you specifically saying that it's still people that is outside don't have anywhere to go during this COVID-19?
Yeah, we have at least 10 tents on my street, and you hear the frustration boiling over, and there's a lot of arguments, there's some fist fights, there's a lot of slamming, and it's a quite a noisy environment. But like I said, with earplugs, I sleep well.
Now, do you feel that, you can survive this pandemic due to the fact that you've been homeless and you have survival skills, and or do you feel that you're nervous like everyone else and you don't know how your future holds?
I mean, there is a little bit of anxiety, and especially since they only allow CNN as the news source in the room, I have to listen to panic fear all the time.
How are you
But
getting back and forth to work? You're being self-sufficient, you have the street savvy, you are in an SRO. How are you getting back and forth to work?
right now, I am having to ride Muni, but I've been reaching out to my social media contacts as weak as they are, trying to find a way to come up with a bike, because I would like to be able to stop taxing the bus system, and get some exercise, which would be valuable to me right now, as I am following the stay-at-home orders. When I'm not working, I'm not getting the exercise that I was getting.
So you see that, ladies and gentlemen, he is self-sufficient. He's basically a frontline worker. That's what he is. And he needs a bike out here. These are the type of things that I do on this show, is bridge a gap. So anyone out there that has a bike and that can give Marc a bike, so that way he can help people like you and me out every day, please help him out with a bike. Now, speaking of being self-sufficient, when you were riding the Muni, are you afraid? And what if someone coughs? What do you do? Because people that's watching this show, they are not familiar with the Muni. I have people that's in the South, and I have people from over different countries. What do you do when you're on a bus and someone coughs?
I don't get too worried about when people cough. I mean, and that happens at work and on the Muni. And basically, I'm not so much worried about getting the virus myself as I am about spreading it, because I'm a 46-year-old male in overall good health. So if I get the virus, it's probably not the end of the world, but it means that I'll be stuck at home for 14 days or more. And I could get sick, but my main concern about hearing somebody cough is that it incites that feeling in me that, like, what if I get it and spread it? And I don't want to kill anybody's grandparents.
Right, that makes sense. What do I do if I spread it, instead of me just getting it? It's just all about protecting each other, and not just yourself. What about protecting each other? And that's what the mask is for, protecting each other, not just for yourself. Don't be so selfish and think about yourself. Think about the community. So,
Exactly.
so when you at work, what type of safety do you do at work?
Well, coming from robotics and working in machine shops and stuff like that, I do take safety very seriously, much more seriously than most of the people around me. So there actually have been a couple instances at work where somebody was coughing or looked like they could possibly be showing symptoms. And I just walk up to them and ask them, how are you feeling? Is this normal for you? Do you know that it's okay for you to go home from work if you're not feeling well, if you have any suspicion? And the company that I'm working for is doing a very good job of making resources available to us. And if anybody does get sick, they go home with pay. There's special, in addition to the sick time that you get from your job. If you were to come down with COVID-19, they will pay you to stay home. So yeah, I'm just very proactive about making sure that people understand that the systems are in place to protect them, and I confront the situation. I actually had a situation at work the other day where I was the one who was coughing, and one of my coworkers was very concerned. She was like, "You should go home," and I was like, "No, this is a normal cough for me."
Yeah.
And I've already been tested because in my SRO there were a couple cases, and the VA came in, and all of us who were veterans got tested, and we had 100% negatives. But I did stay home on quarantine for 12 days, waiting for those test results to come back. And so I had just recently been cleared, and I was quick to assuage her.
Yay.
I was quick to assuage her concerns, and I told her, you should probably let a manager know if you're concerned, and she didn't want to do that. So I went ahead and told the manager that she's a little bit worried about the fact that I was coughing, and if you guys want me to go home, I absolutely will. And they took my temperature and kind of thought about it and weighed the truth of what I was saying. That I do cough from time to time. It's just a normal thing for me, and I know the difference between me just coughing and me feeling
Yeah.
sick.
So with that being said, do you feel like you should just carry those papers around? Is this a new normal?
Well, I mean, they didn't give me any papers. They basically just told us that the results were negative and you can go back to work.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, at some point we have to consider that, this is a war against a molecule, and we can't let it completely dictate our lives. We have to do the best that we can with the information that we have and then move forward.
Now tell me how that looks like, because a lot of us, we still quarantine at home. How does that look like at work? Do you wear a mask at work? Do you wear the gloves?
Yes, so we have PPE coming out of our ears. We've got the masks on at all times. We're wearing gloves. We change them between every time you walk out the door. There's people that are assigned to cleaning all door handles every hour. We have multiple sanitation stations, and I wash my hands for 20 seconds every chance I get. There's lots of protective measures being taken and put in place. Not everybody wants to abide by them, but aggregately, we're doing a pretty good job of responding to the virus.
So how long do you think this will last? This whole, no one has that. These answers is not perfect, you know what I mean? And you don't have, it doesn't have to be right. But how long do you think it will last, this
Well, I
virus?
mean, it's gonna go in phases. I think, being afraid of pandemics and other things that could get into the system is going to have long-lasting effects. It's 25 years at least. This quarantine business and stay-at-home orders and so on and so forth, I think we've actually reached the end of it already. We're going a little bit too far. We're kind of being like overprotective parents. We slow down the system. When something goes wrong, you stop the machine, you step back, you clear the debris, and you make sure that it's you put any new measures you have to put in place, but then you have to turn it back on and get going again. And I definitely think that they need to get past this really quickly and figure out how to live with this until we can eradicate it or it goes away on its own.
Now this is all history, this coronavirus, this show, you being on this show, your kids, future kids, and our great grandkids is going to look at this. So what would you tell the future right now? What would you tell the future about this pandemic and this coronavirus, and how did you feel and overcome it? What would you tell the future?
I mean, the future is going to be so much different than anything we've ever experienced that I don't really
About
know how
this,
to
about
tell them.
coronavirus. How would you
I,
feel,
I think I think that it's been documented pretty well, and we live in an era where there's good data tracking. So like everything everybody has to say on Twitter and Facebook and all the news coverage will be digested and distilled by AI and quantum computers. So I think that there will be much better resources out there for looking back on this as a moment in history and learning from it. But I would say the same thing I would say to anybody right now is keep hope alive and see the potential at the end of the road. Look towards what you can make out of something bad that happens rather than the effects of the bad happen. Don't let it become, don't let the world become a more fear-driven society than it already is. This too shall pass and we will overcome.
Wow, that's wonderful, and that's a good thing to tell the future, or tell your future self, and after you looking at this, and yeah, because like I said, our great Gary kids is going to look at this and figure out how did we overcome it, and what was this all about, and was it really that serious? It's the same thing as the 9/11 or any type of pandemic. And I guess I has to ask you just two more questions, then we can just wrap this up. And for anyone who is experiencing homelessness, do you have any tips and advice during this COVID-19? Someone that's probably can't pay their rent and just hopping from place to place, or literally living on the streets, or, you know, overcoming homelessness. Any tips and advice during
Yeah, stick to the
COVID-19?
basics. And, like I had this conversation with somebody 2 days ago who's still living in the navigation center that I transitioned out of into this SRO. I said, right now, focus on, taking a shower every day, make your bed, make sure you eat healthy, get a little bit of exercise, take some time, find a quiet place, do what you've got to do to survive it, and continue to think about what's possible for you. Because, as poverty goes up, 38 million people are now looking for work. That's going to basically turn a very small problem, 1% of the population, into a very big problem. And collectively, we're going to have to get together and fix it. So don't be hopeless, and don't let your fear overtake your heart. Keep positive attitude, and breathe through surviving this pandemic.
Yes, that's wonderful. Breathe through it. Breathe. Just breathe. And for the organizations that's not breathing and don't know how to serve, during this pandemic, do you have any type of business strategy and advice to give to them to help serve us?
Absolutely. First of all, if you're in a client-facing role and you have to deal with people directly, you're seeing a lot of anxiety and a lot of despair on the faces of these people. Go back to before the pandemic and remember how much value there is in creating a smile on somebody's face. It can be harder to do in times like this, but if you can do it, it's also 10 times more valuable. And then look at our industry, and that's what it really is, an industry of serving homeless and people in poverty. And look at it as, how do we dismantle this and take it apart? We need total solutions to poverty. And we need to look at, what's your future going to look like if you put yourself out of business, and make that a goal. Don't just make that an ideal. Say that we're going to, we're going to get through this. We're going to come out stronger. And, again, I always tell everybody, look to the future and have hope, and start thinking about, what are services going to look like in a world where there is housing for everybody, and food is not a scarcity. And, we have a drug problem right now that's getting worse as well. As people start to get availed to services and start to get better and start to live healthier, happier lives, what are we going to do with all these resources, all this manpower, and all this money that's currently being thrown at a problem that, frankly, we just shouldn't have in our society?
Wow, that's wonderful. I love that, Mark. This was definitely a great conversation. And do you have anything else to do with final touches and to say to your audience here?
Just keep watching this show. Keep watching real people that are on the streets, talking to people that are actually going through it. And because you're not getting the right information from the media, you're not getting the right information from your politicians. Get active and be a part of the world that you live in. And look at sources. You don't have to see the most, and everything doesn't have to be Game of Thrones. You can watch real people having real interviews and learn a lot about what's really going on in the world around you. And that will give you a chance to be happier and more hopeful about the future, as well as to be an impactful change maker.
Wow, you're a wonderful change maker. And thank you so much, Mark, for being on the show. I hope you have a great, successful future after all of this. And you're definitely going to get that bike.
Likewise. And thank you to you and your audience for watching and for doing this and putting this on. You are a frontline hero. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much as well.
Hey, look back at the camera.
Hey, what's up? It's our Vader. It's video.
Yeah, man. Appreciate that.
What's up, guys?
What's up?
Yeah.
biggie. Turn it. Yeah. I told y'all I was coming. Thought I was playing, huh? Hey, I said one day I be on, one day I be good. One day make it out the hood and hope I'm living good. I said one day I be on, one day I be good. One day make it out the hood and hope I'm living good. I said one day I be on, one day I be good. One day make it out the